Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. It's a beautiful day and I thought I would take you through the garden for another one of our weekly garden tours and walkabouts. Today there's lots of things that are blooming and I think you're going to enjoy it. We finally got a little rain even though the grass is still a bit brown. So come with me and we'll join the garden. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Soleil and I garden in Zone 5B in Michigan. And right now we're standing on my deck. And this is a beautiful, gorgeous hydrangea that is a panicle, and it is about to bloom. And this is a diamond rouge hydrangea. It turns the most amazing colors. I cannot wait to see it again this year. I got it last year, and it's just in a pot and has overwintered in it. We have some monarda and some geraniums. And in this pot, which is super cute, we have some geraniums with some alyssum. I probably will have to move some of those geraniums out soon because they're getting too big for the pot. Again, some more alyssum. And in this pot, we have the combo that I planted out earlier this spring, if you watched the video where I planted clematis with cherry tomatoes. So the cherry tomatoes are ripening. I added some alyssum down at the bottom. And then the clematis is blooming now, and this one is called the Comtesse de Bouchade. Absolutely beautiful, a very light pink, almost lavender color. Then we have a nice pot full of rosemary here. All right, let's go down the stairs. And there's the hose that's always out in my garden. And here on this gorgeous little path, we still have lots of phlox that are in bloom here. And these are the opening act Pinkadot phlox, along with some of the variegated liriope. And then thyme. This is a beautiful thyme that smells so good when you walk on it. And then finally an evening rose hibiscus here. We have some foxglove that are about to go to seed, and so I'll cut those back and hopefully I'll get a second flush of blooms on them. That typically works pretty well for me. And some incredible hydrangeas. Let's check these out. They are looking absolutely gorgeous right now. And in front of the two incredible hydrangeas, we have a panicle hydrangea as well that's getting ready to flower. And this one is called the Strawberry Sundae. So I think that will make a really gorgeous combination here. And the planters that are on either side of my deck steps are looking quite pretty to me. And let's just take a look at the fountain area. The fountain area is looking really lovely. Since we got some rain, some of the new growth is starting to begin again on the spirea. And the spirea bushes have this beautiful deep dark red new growth. So we saw that in the spring, and then after cutting it back, after rebloom, it's coming again. And we have the millennium alliums that are beginning to bloom here. And then just on the other side of the path, we have some amazing daylilies, the creamsicle daylilies. They have a beautiful smell. They're kind of a light peachy orange color. And then some other pink daylilies are starting to bloom here with a beautiful yellow center. And right behind it, the Strawberry Sundae, or excuse me, I always call this one the Strawberry Sundae as well, but that is not. It is a different one. It's vanilla, not vanilla strawberry. I wish they would name things a little differently. Berry white. This is the berry white hydrangea. And there's my sweet peas that I've just pulled out of the garden. Over here we have a forsythia on the left and a strawberry Sunday hydrangea on the right. So that one is a strawberry Sunday. And then just down here I added several of the clearance plants. These are the Rose Marvel, so I tucked 3 in right here. So I think that will be a nice addition because right here will provide some repetition to where we have some just past the hydrangea right down here. Pretty soon we will have lots of Millennium alliums blooming. It will be magnificent. But right now what's magnificent is this Quickfire Hydrangea, flanked by a hanging basket that's looking beautiful, and the Japanese maple as well. And this side over here, which faces south, has even more blooms open on it. It's simply stunning. Coming up below the Japanese maple tree, now we have the denim and lace. This is a Russian sage. So that should bloom a lavender, and that also has a really lovely scent to it. And one thing you definitely can't miss right now are some of the coneflowers that are beginning to bloom. Over here we have the Cheyenne Spirit. Absolutely amazing, the colors on some of these. Just gorgeous. This one looks like a sunset over here. The Etoile de Violet Clematis is now beginning to wane. It's starting to produce some seed heads, which will also be beautiful. And then that at the base has a strawberry Sunday hydrangea planted. And then just to the right on the other side of this path, we have the gorgeous Cleopatra coneflower, which is just a bunch of sunshine in the garden. It really lights up, and the pollinators love it. And yet to bloom, but putting on some amazing buds, is the vanilla strawberry hydrangea that is next to the fountain. This one is absolutely magnificent. The panicles are huge. And we'll see the liatris throughout the garden during this tour is definitely starting to bloom. It's further along in some places than others. And here we have a pot of miscellany, but I think it looks really pretty right now. I tucked one of my elephant ears in here, and I had one growing in this pot last year and it did really well, so hopefully this one will do good again. The heuchera are looking much better now that they have gotten a bit more water. They could use some more rain though, so we'll be watching for it yet to come. And then under this hanging basket, we have a new flower. This is called Cappuccino Rudbeckia. Isn't that gorgeous? That's probably about 2.5 feet right now. And I probably will move it because I'm not sure I like the juxtaposition of the color in this bed, but it was a spot that I had open last fall when I bought it, so I went ahead and put it there. The Viburnum is looking really healthy behind these barberry, and the limoncello barberry just set everything off really nicely. As you can see, I've been deadheading, so there's many less blooms right now, but there's lots more that are yet to come. We have lots of daylilies that are setting buds. I have cut back all of the phlox and the dianthus. Well, I did leave this one phlox because it still had plenty of blooms on it. And I've been working on deadheading the rose. And the tiny rocket lilies are now at the end of their life. There's one last bloom. The others I have begun deadheading. We're also going to see the purple coneflowers coming to life during this tour. And here's another Quickfire Hydrangea. So these are some of the very first in my garden to bloom that are in the panicle type of hydrangea series. And if you recall, we just planted these clearance plants. They're still looking really good and happy in the garden. And they definitely bring a nice bright pop of cheeriness to this section of the garden. I love this Tuscany barberry. The red leaves with the light yellow or chartreuse edging around each and every one of the leaves is really beautiful. And then in this corner of the garden, we have a redbud that is growing much bigger. And underneath of it, we have two different types of cranesbill geranium. On the left, we have the Roseanne geranium, which has a little bit bigger leaves, and then to the right we have the Johnson blue geranium. And I'm probably going to be replacing this hosta, which is burnt this fall when it cools down a bit, with a hydrangea, a paniculata hydrangea. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that does. One that will stay smaller than the redbud. But again, just working to create that layered garden effect. I'm really sorry to see that this daylily has closed because it was the very first bloom. It was absolutely beautiful, and there's more to come though, so there will definitely be time for me to show those to you. This is another Diamond Rouge hydrangea, and it's doing much better now that it had rain. It got some wind scorch from those really hot days. And we have some Liatris with the Johnson blue geranium just creeping through it. And then some more beautiful daylilies that are getting ready to bloom. We have the little lime hydrangea at the end here that is next to the gorgeous blooms of the saponaria, also known as soapwort. Has a really lovely scent and the pollinators love it. That is a native. And in the shade garden, things are looking pretty healthy. I have cut back the foxglove in this bed, and I think that has helped tidy it up a little bit. And with the water, it has definitely made a big difference. We're seeing a little bit more new growth. And along the front edge of this bed here, the Golden Tiara hostas are putting on amazing numbers of flower buds. So this will be covered in lavender blooms soon. And this small redbud that I planted as a volunteer is now about 7 feet tall and starting to really look like a small tree. I'm very happy about that. So you can see the foliage in the center of this hosta, which is the autumn frost. It has more yellow on the leaves because of the fresh rain generating the new growth, and it fades to that creamy white as the heat and sun and age change it over time. The plum tree is beginning to provide a little bit of shade, but I think next year will truly be the year that it takes off. Next year will be its 3rd year of growth in the garden. Based on everyone's feedback, I have kept this window in the garden. I'm planning to move some of the stakes and sticks that are to the right of it in order to kind of clean it up just a little bit. The Mega Caramel Heuchera is looking pretty good. It's definitely had some bug damage due to all of this heat. I think the bugs have had a really good year this year in my garden and really enjoyed eating whatever they could get. And these pots are doing amazing. Just look at all of the blooms on the dahlias and the snapdragons and the geraniums and the petunias. It's quite a magnificent display of color. And it's so interesting to see the second pot. It gets just slightly less sun because of the shade from the pots in front of it, and it has many less blooms so far from the dahlias. But they may also be different types of dahlias. I just don't know what they are. All of them I ordered last year, and actually I didn't order them. I bought them in bags at Costco, and they were labeled, but none of the dahlias were actually what the labels on the bags were. So hopefully things will get better with that next year. I did a little bit of change up in this bed, and I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. I moved some of the lamium that was on the left into the center, and then I flanked that on either side by the phlox. And so it's just got a little bit more symmetry to it. And then also on each side of the aster here is a liatris. And so I think that's really a lot better. It looks more organized to me. And then there's the soapwort behind the weigela that is blooming. The Annabelle Hydrangea is just looking really, really lovely. It's enjoying its position back there in the part shade. It hasn't flopped or anything because it's fairly protected from the rainfall by the overhead branches, but also not too shaded so that it doesn't bloom. Over here, we're having a bloom from Grandma's Blessing Rose, which I thought was dead and has come back to life. And it's a beautiful pink rose. So I'm very excited that that came back. And the nasturtiums and rhubarb in this plant are looking much healthier. I cannot say the same for the nasturtiums in the concrete planters that flank either side of the end of the pool. They are still looking very bad, and I have not found anything that I really want to replace them with yet. I might just pull them out anyways and leave them empty for now. The astilbe is looking beautiful. It's so feathery and fluffy. This is the Visions astilbe. And the pretty and pink lungwort, which will not bloom again this year, but it doesn't matter because the foliage is so amazing. This blue hosta has some amazing blooms on it. Just look at the number of blooms. And the shapes, they're like stars. It's always amazing just how much everything really perks up, even after a short rain. One of the things I had a subscriber comment on recently was she noticed how she could probably grow a good garden without too much fertilizer. And that's absolutely correct. People ask me a lot about my fertilizing routine, and it's extremely minimal. I have decent soil. I recommend people get a soil test if you don't know about your soil or what's in it, or if it doesn't seem like it's very healthy. But for the most part, what you need is in your soil, as long as you continue to add organic matter to it, such as mulch or compost. You're starting to get just a little bit of a burn on the Coneflower grass. before it rained, but now it's doing much better. This is just a look back at the length of the garden here. And the Pinky Winky Hydrangea does have some really good buds on it now. Over here I also made some small changes by the birdhouse bed. And the Cleopatra coneflower here is starting to bloom, but this is where I decided to plant my Hellebores that I got on clearance. So I had 4 of them, 3 of them of which looked amazing, and the other one which was a little bit sketchy, but for the price I had to take it. So those are all planted there, along with my pincushion flower. And then on the other end is another Cleopatra coneflower. I really love to grow things that the pollinators and the wildlife enjoy. Hopefully not too much for them to actually eat completely. But before I put these Hellebores here, I had variegated hostas, and I felt like it was just a little bit too much. It was those wavy cream and green hostas like this. So I pulled those out because they were not looking very good either. There was just a little bit too much sun with the small maple tree gone from this area. So I just took it out. All right, let's see. The half moon bed is looking beautiful, and we're even starting to get some dahlia blooms in here. Again, some more orange ones, which all I had ordered was pink, but I got orange, and that's okay because they seem to be doing really well. And the privets are amazing. They do provide a really nice glow in the evening. And the Red Riding Hood is looking nice, and you can see now, I think, a little bit better how that dianthus goes really well with this Red Riding Hood penstemon. They just set each other off really well. And some of the early fizzy pink dianthus are starting to bloom. And the Wizard of Oz, penstemon, or excuse me, Veronica. Here we have the other Quickfire Hydrangea that I grew. And the Sombrero Orange Coneflower. We gave a pretty good tour of the potager last time, so I'm not going to go into that today just for the sake of time, but it's looking really good. I have pulled the peas out as well. I have not yet planted the area where I pulled the lettuce out, but it looks nice and clean, and I can do a little bit of weeding in between the cracks, but one of my goals is to get rid of the wood landscape timbers that are around the outside of each bed, just to give myself that little bit of extra room. Probably on one side I'll replace with brick, and the other side will add soil. But these are still looking really beautiful, and the zinnias are starting to bloom within this bed. We have one really nice purple prince zinnia here, and others that are just starting to open. And the ferns from the asparagus are also really pretty. We'll take you now through the side bed over here, which is looking really healthy. Again, lots of giant hostas with the ferns in the pulmonaria and the beautiful 9-bark. And then as we come about seeing the gorgeous hydrangeas that continue to produce a few more new blooms, which is amazing. And the daylilies in here will also bloom white, so I think that's going to be really pretty, especially given the dark foliage of the barberry and the plum tree here. And here's that new Rainbow Sensation Weigela that we just planted. And this Strawberry Sunday Hydrangea is starting to open its buds. I do need to come through and trim back these phlox. Just haven't had a chance to do that yet, but I will do that before people come over for the garden tour to tidy it up, because in the next couple of days they will definitely be pretty spent. We are really, really close to this Pinky Winky hydrangea beginning to open its blooms. But the PG hydrangea right next to it is gorgeous and white. And at the base of it we have the Patriot hostas with the white and green. And then the coneflowers in this bed are now about 4 feet tall. And beautiful. This one actually opened up with curly leaves. Isn't that interesting? Almost like they got stuck in a tube. Well, let's go check out the front garden. But first I'm going to show you the pink make clematis. Isn't that a stunner? It definitely has lots of blooms this year. Last year was probably half of this, and still many, many buds on it, so I think it's going to continue to bloom for a while. Just the beautiful bell-shaped flowers. Everything's really full along here. The fragrant low-grow sumac bushes are very big and bushy, and back behind it we have the bear's breeches flower. Not a lot of people have that one. I got that one from a neighbor who worked at a nursery. It's always good to know people who have plants, right? Then you can share. Here we have the blue shadow fothergilla next to the sky pencil holly, which is just peeking out between the hostas right now. And the amazing size of these hostas, just incredible. Let's see if we can catch this bumblebee. He's going from flower to flower, pollinating the hostas. This little garden bed was started last year. We have the bedazzled hostas and the painted town magenta dianthus, and then we have the rose sweet orange garden phlox. I'm really hoping that the deer or rabbits do not get the buds on these, because the front one, it looks like they did eat the tops off. But I want to see the blooms, so let's hope for that. All right, let's check out the front garden bed here, guys, because there's some new stuff happening here as well. And this week, something that's opening up is a beautiful daisy. This is a Goldfinch Shasta daisy, and it's a very, very beautiful yellow with frilly leaves on the flower. And next to it we have a yarrow, which is the firefly amethyst. And so you can see I've repeated this yellow Goldfinch daisy along the front of this border, and I'll be pulling that variegated hosta out. You can see the bobo hydrangeas are starting to just open up. They're so dainty and lace-like and beautiful. I'm excited for those. And then hopefully you can see this alley with the small drumstick heads bobbing over the golden tiara hosta into this bed. Very cute. Getting a bloom on the oak leaf hydrangea here. It's starting to open up, so that's fun. And the liatris are starting to open up as well. So let's take a look at the front of this garden bed, because we have a couple of additional bobo hydrangeas up front here that are also starting to open. And so it's definitely starting to change the scene and the look of this garden bed. So we have the two bobo hydrangeas that are just in front of the orange rocket barberries, with the liatris in between those. We have the powwow wildberry coneflowers up in front, with two of the sedums on either side. So that's really pretty now as well. Not that it wasn't before, it just keeps changing, right? And it gives you a whole different look throughout the seasons. All right, let's take a look over here at the other garden bed that we have. And in this one, we have a small PG hydrangea, another one that was from a cutting I took. And that one's looking good. And the coneflowers are really opening up now. And you can see even in the evening, it's about 8:30 at night, after the sun goes down, the pollinators are still enjoying the coneflowers. Now, something interesting as well, this blue muffin Viburnum was not supposed to be able to produce berries unless it had a certain other type of viburnum nearby. So there must be one, because I see berries this year for the first time. I didn't get any last year. So I'm hoping to see those turn blue. Wouldn't that be fun? I think the pink coneflower looks so pretty up against that juniper and the elderberry. Isn't that a beautiful color combination? And we have Millennium Allium that are going to bloom here as well. And then the Gara that we just planted is looking so cute. Hopefully you can see those dancing butterfly flowers underneath of the May Louisa crabapple. Everything's so much better since we got a little bit of rain. You can see even the planter back here looks amazing with the cake pops verbena and the clematis. That one's getting ready to bloom. It has lots of buds all over it. And I was able to get a few more of the wave petunias on clearance, so I put some in the ground just to kind of fill in some of the areas that are looking a little bit bare right now this time of year. So that's a nice fun thing to do with annuals. Isn't that pretty? If you look from this angle, you can even see the clematis blooms in this bed. And then, I guess the grand finale here, this is the last part we have to see, is the liatris hedge with the PG hydrangea standard and the geraniums and the boxwoods. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Such a gorgeous walkway. And the bees love the liatris. All the pollinators love it. So this is the mother of the PG hydrangea cuttings that I have taken the last couple years, with the royal ferns at the base. And then at the end of all the liatris is another flower that the bees love. In fact, they're all over this one right now. It's Bethany. I love bumblebees. And finally, a hydrangea back here. So things are looking really good. I hope you guys enjoyed this tour, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye.